And those are my losers of the week. Joining me now is cultural commentator and the Beau Show host, Beau Davidson. Beau, it's great to talk to you. We have a lot to discuss. I do want to go right now, though, to the breaking news, which is Jimmy Kimmel being yanked off ABC for his remarks about Charlie Kirk and Charlie Kirk's assassin. Now, the left, they're all in a panic mode. They're super emotional about this, of course. Stephen Colbert was their martyr, and now Jimmy Kimmel is their martyr. Although they mock Christians and conservatives for saying that Charlie Kirk is a martyr. What's your initial reaction to this? Is this an example of cancel culture?
Not at all, Tommy. I think this has been a long time coming, if we're being honest. Kimmel has been brazen enough to toe this line before, and it's been very intentional. I think Colbert did it too. But when you compare an assassin to every single person in Turning Point USA, you have crossed a line and you have offended mainstream viewers. These are the bread and butter of your audience. And I'll be honest, Tommy, this is what we really have to discuss. You don't have total free speech in a corporation. You have to uphold their principles or their values, or there are consequences. Now, I do find it kind of amazing that this is ABC, the same network that silenced Amy Robach over the Epstein situation. But let's be clear, free speech, this is not an example of an abridgment of free speech. Kimmel is going to cry foul, as did Stephen Colbert. And I think Kimmel has every right to express his views, as vile as they may be, in whatever form that he wants to. But when you're on a late night show that is owned by a major corporation, you signed up for this. You understand that the things that you say have consequences. And in my opinion, this is economics 101. If you say things that offend most of mainstream America and your viewers, you lose revenue, you lose dollars, you give your corporation a headache, and you have every right to be removed from your position. That's not a free speech issue. That's just simple economics.
Yeah, and again, I would remind folks that ABC, these networks, these public networks, all this, they don't operate under the same guidelines as, say, a Fox News or a cable news network and MSNBC. So different rules there. I would also say this. Folks are saying, well, it's because he said offensive things. I don't actually think it's necessarily because he said offensive things. I think it's because he put forth that Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin was MAGA. That's not the case. That's been really from the get-go of this thing. We've known that that's not the case, but he put that out there and he never took it back. He never said we were wrong about that. I also, and again, I know that this does fall under free speech, but I don't know, Beau, how we got to a place where late night talk show hosts who fancy themselves to be comedians are making jokes about the assassination of a 31-year-old husband and father as if it's just a punchline. Now, that is free speech. I find it abhorrent, but I just want your take on that, because how far they have fallen from the days of Johnny Carson and others. You can talk about political events, but when you're saying, oh, President Trump is treating the death of his friend like the death of a goldfish, like a 4-year-old mourning the death of a goldfish. I mean, I don't know. That's not funny to me. I don't know if it's funny to anybody, quite frankly.
No, it's not. But if we're really boiling this down, I hate to say this, but the same position of ideological hatred that was within Tyler Robinson may actually be inside of Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert and others. It may manifest itself in a different form, but you have to understand that once you get radicalized, you become weaponized. That's exactly what Tyler Robinson did. It's the same mind virus. It is the woke mind virus. And the difference is he masquerades it as comedy. And like I said, Tommy, they've been masquerading this stuff. They've been towing this line for years and years, ever since Donald Trump was first president. But to make that comparison, as I said, between an assassin, a confirmed killer, who, this was not love or rage, let's be honest. It's from ideological dysmorphia. It's from a radicalization of a belief that the same thing is happening. I believe in Jimmy Kimmel's brain. His weapon is comedy, or what he masquerades as comedy. And it ain't funny. And it ain't funny to a lot of people out there, which is why I say it's a simple commerce economic decision. You pull the plug on a guy his jokes aren't landing.
Yeah. And also, to me, it's really just the pushing of the narrative about the alleged assassin, saying that, oh, this is just one of them Trump supporters. Like, no. We have every indication, including text messages, that show it was politically motivated, not from the right, but certainly from the left. You know, Beau, I think that there's maybe three groups of left-leaning folks in this. There's what I hope is the majority that are horrified by this, even if they didn't like Charlie Kirk. They're horrified by what happened to him. I think that's the majority, at least I hope so. Then I think there's a group of people who, yeah, like they don't really care. Like, it doesn't really impact them that this happened. And then there's the third group who not just don't care, but they're happy about it. And that's a real icky place to be if you're in groups 2 or 3. To either not care, it's like another day, ooh, whatever, it's a speck of dust on your ass. Or if you're like, yeah, secretly, I think this is kind of great, and I'm celebrating it. And I really think that other group, the group that's truly horrified by it, they need to have a conversation with the bulk of their party and their cohorts, if you will, because something's wrong here, and they're not self-remedying it, I guess I should say.
There are a lot of people online, Tomi, and I'm sure you've seen them. I've been mortified that some people I know that are within my network that I see, they're liberals, they're artists, a lot of them work in my industry, who will say, this is how they phrase it, I don't advocate violence, but ... And there's 2 paragraphs there about why Charlie was a misogynist, a homophobe, a racist, bigot. And when you go through that whole diatribe, you have negated your first sentence. So a lot of those people, Tomi, that I thought were, like you said, probably more moderate, they're not speaking out in the way that I would expect them to. You either have a standard and you say political assassination is wrong and I would never think of it. But when you toe this line of, well, it was bad and I don't think that's the right way, but let's look at who Charlie really was. You are condoning what the guy did, whether you think you are or not. And unfortunately, I've seen over half of people and their response to it, that's a problem in this country.
It's a big problem. It's really unfortunate that we're at this point. I do believe that the majority of people are good and decent, but I think that the rule of thumb should be if you don't have something decent to say and you don't have something moral to say about a young man who lost his life through a political assassination, maybe just don't say anything, Just don't. Like, if it doesn't impact you, you don't really care, just don't make a comment. Don't feel the need to make any comment at all, because we don't really want to hear it. We don't want to hear your butt. We don't want to hear your qualifiers, your disclaimers, all that. Just shut up. Just shut up and go back to your business, okay? Because it's really offensive and insulting to your fellow human beings who still consider to be a bad thing. I want to move on, though, to some other points of the week. Again, this is kind of tied back to the whole Charlie Kirk assassination, but I am finding that a lot of the folks who are saying that Charlie Kirk was, anti-gay, misogynist, homophobic, transphobic, all these things, those same people, they are the Queers for Palestine. So I'm rather confused about that. I'm not sure that they know what Hamas or fundamentalist Islam stands for, but I want to play a clip here because the celebrities, they are really coming out for Palestine, they say. Let's take a look.
Together for Palestine.
Palestine. Palestine. Palestine.
Palestine.
Palestine.
Palestine.
Palestine.
Palestine.
Palestine.
Palestine.
Together for Palestine.
We have to tell the truth on behalf of the people of Palestine.
It's always been the artist's role in society to speak out, to risk speaking truth to power.
Together, we know that the leaders of this country are complicit in the mass of civilians in Gaza and the West Bank.
Palestine के लिए एक साथ.
Juntos por Palestina.
لكيلا أرسون Palestine.
हम فलस्तीन के लिए एक साथ.
أسي Palestine the Nalhan.
An end for Glesh on Palestine.
Together for Palestine.
It's important to speak out now, not when this is over. Right now, while it's happening.
For Palestine.
Pressurize your government. Lend your support to those who are peacefully campaigning.
For Palestine.
Call for a ceasefire. Stop.
Vamos a estar con ellos hasta que Palestina sea libre.
Beau, I don't know about you, but did Osama bin Laden direct that propaganda piece there? Because that's not feeling real normal to me. The way it was shot, the way that they're talking, the way that they're dead-eyed looking into the camera, talking about all these things, it feels like a Hamas propaganda video, and in some ways I'm sure that it is. I guess I'm rather confused. All these people, it's like the Palestinians, they're being this, that. I don't remember them making this video after October 7th, though.
No, it's very performative, isn't it? They are actors, after all. I'm one, I can say that, but I would never do this. I've just, honestly, Tomi, I've had it up to here with the celebrity bandwagon virtue signaling. How many videos do we have to see like this? What they did at John Lennon's Imagine. I mean, it's over and over and over again. Yet, not one of those celebrities that you just played would go to Palestine, would have dinner with someone from Hamas, or would take in even one of those refugees. They're such hypocrites. They want to claim, as you said, that Charlie Kirk was homophobic, bigoted. But, oh, don't say anything about your Muslim brothers who were throwing gay people off of roofs. Don't say anything about that. And you think about even the Emmys that happened recently. I don't watch this stuff anymore. My mom watches it for me, honestly. But not one mention of Charlie Kirk, of what happened, not a moment of silence, because they don't believe in silence. They believe that silence is bad, that they should exercise their right for free speech, even if what they say comes out of their mouth is complete, bollocks. But you did have someone saying free Palestine. You did have one of the actors saying that. And
she also said F ICE, by the way. That was real eloquent. Exactly.
Yeah. So one day it's free Palestine, Tomi. Next day it's Ukraine. Next day it's ICE. It's just whatever is trendy. It's just the epitome of trendy hypocrisy.
Yeah.
I've had it.
They're not really talking about Ukraine that much, though, because, when Irina Zarutska was stabbed to death by one of their beloved degenerates, then they kind of threw that over. Like, the Ukrainians weren't as big of a deal. Also, when President Trump has been working overtime to try to broker peace and to try to, protect Ukraine and get a ceasefire and save lives on both sides, they're not as much into that one. It's not as trendy right now. Right now, it's just the Palestine, that's what's important to them. None of them would go there, right? They wouldn't go there. They wouldn't interact, especially without a team of security. But they like to sit there from Hollywood and wear their dumb scarves and feel like they've really done something. They're moronic, is what it really is. I will call them morons. I don't have any problem with that. But I want to get your take on this. After the first assassination attempt on President Trump, there was maybe 48 hours there where Democrats were like, we're not going to call him a Nazi anymore. We're not going to call him a fascist anymore. We're not going to call him Hitler anymore. Right before the RNC, they had buses that were going around calling him these things. And they decided, hey, since the guy almost died, maybe we won't put those buses around. We'll give it a little bit. Quickly, they resumed, we know. But even after Charlie Kirk was assassinated and you had, shell casings that said things about fascists, all this, you've got Randy Weingarten, right out the gate, an article in Rolling Stone referring, again, to conservatives as fascists. They don't care at all, Beau. They don't care. This goes back to our initial discussion. They don't care, and they are not going to change.
Yep, it's hatred. It's another reductionist argument, if you want to be honest, to paint conservatives as fascist. I think what Randy Weingarten did in this article, and I read all of it, is she makes the mistake of correlating education with intelligence. And that's something that we've got to really get to the bottom of here, because she thinks that the more elitist education that you have, the more intelligent that you are. So she thinks that basically all conservatives are idiots, that they should be kept from education because they don't want education, just keep them in their little box, keep them stupid. And I got to tell you, I did a movie recently, Tomi, not far from you in Crossville, Tennessee, in which I play an atheist in it. And I fall in love with a Christian or a creationist. And I think that a lot of atheists, for instance, believe that Christians take critical thinking and set it aside. And they think, oh, you just believe, you just trust in God. When I contend it's the exact opposite. Being a Christian, having faith actually encourages you to not just have faith, but faith with reason, faith with proof, faith through science. And would it be so crazy to have a class in college sometime that's creationism and evolution taught simultaneously side by side and think about it critically? So in my opinion, what Weingarten is doing is reducing this entire argument and making it sound like not only are conservatives stupid, but they're all fascist. When the truth is, when you look at the education system, who are the real authoritarians? Who dictates DEI? Who wants inclusive teachers? Who wants teachers that have tenure who can say whatever they want? That's the authoritarianism. The more elite you become in education, the more you think one way. Who's the authoritarian now?
What I find so confusing about modern day education, I'm only 33, Beau, but when I was in school, as a young one, I guess I'm in South Dakota, so it's a little different, right? When I grew up, it's a little bit more conservative. All my teachers were liberals, though. I knew that early on. Like, that's a liberal, that's a Democrat. I was in high school when Obama got elected. Like, they were all, just toppling over with joy. I knew that they were Democrats, right? And I'm obviously a conservative, always have been. I'm in a conservative state, raised conservative. I've always known that, right? But even my liberal Democrat teachers who loved Obama and all this, sometimes it might have little hints in instruction, especially we're doing social studies. There might be like a little hint here and there. It's like, yeah, that's a liberal perspective, right? But the cup wasn't overfloweth with the bull. Now kids go to school And that's really what it is. It's like, we'll do a little math over here, you know, a little Common Core. We'll do a little reading, not a lot of it, just a little bit of reading. But then the rest of it, it's going to be what this activist teacher decides you need to know to be a good activist. That to me is kind of where a lot of the problems stem from.
This is why you need Turning Point USA. This is exactly why you need a student action summit. It's why you need a young women's leadership conference, because this is where it's happening. Charlie Kirk was so astute to realize that the seed of all this stuff that's happening is happening at that level. Look at the age of Tyler Robinson. Look how old he is. Disaffected young men that a guy like Gavin Newsom thinks those are his people. The reason why Charlie was so good at what he did is because he got people from the online world and brought them in person and engaged them and said, think critically, debate vigorously. This is how we solve problems. And he knew that it was happening at college campuses. So for all those authoritarians that think that conservatives are authoritarian by burning books or whatever they're doing, think twice. Put the mirror in front of your face. You're the ones that are authoritarian. Charlie Kirk taught people to think critically, to take that debate to the stage and say, hey, if there's a teacher that's doing this to you, you need to bring it to someone's attention. And I think that's why Turning Point must exist and must proliferate and must get bigger and bigger, in my opinion.
And I'd also say this, and maybe there are leftists that go to, you know, college campuses and offer up the microphone to the right. I haven't seen it. Nope. Maybe it exists. I haven't seen it on a large scale. I haven't seen leftists that are so confident in their opinion that they're like, all right, I'm going to come to campus and like, let's talk, let's have a debate. You know, I'll give you the microphone, prove me wrong or convince me of this. I haven't seen them do it. Because the way that they like to express their beliefs is they like to riot and they like to barricade janitors and buildings and burn things for Palestine, right? And they like to cause mayhem and destruction and chaos. But I haven't seen them be so confident in their opinions on these college campuses that they actually want to have a debate or a dialogue. I just don't see them do it. And I think it's because they know that they don't really have a leg to stand on. And I think that they're very well aware of that. So they would rather just shut you down or heckle you or protest you or light you on fire. They would rather do that because the conversation to them, that's their weak spot.
Yeah, and just real quickly, you brought up the point about comedians and Colbert and Kimmel. The one guy that I think is fair, or at least fairer about it, is Bill Maher. He at least presents both sides of the argument. He's the only guy out there that I can see who's still a leftist who permits all ideas and is critical towards both parties. Let's all be honest.
Yeah.
That's why he's funny.
Yeah, and he's, you know, I don't agree with everything he says, but a lot of it, I'm like, yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Like, at least you have a logic. At least I can see where your logic is, even if I disagree with it. I can see where it stems from. You've made your case, even if I disagree with it. When you're just shutting people down and going like, free Palestine or, you know, LGBTQ, queers for Palestine, like, no wonder they don't want to debate it because it doesn't make sense. No, men can be women. No, they can't. It's hard to argue those points because a lot of them are insane. The last thing I do want to talk to you about, you brought up Gavin Newsom. So Gavin is really, he's always looking for an angle, right? He's always looking for some spotlight, a shiny surface. And now the LA Times is positioning him as the left's Charlie Kirk. And they're saying, well, because he has conversations with a couple conservatives, then he's really going to be, you know, the new person that can step in for young men. And if he wants to lead young men, I mean, whatever. That's his, I guess, his right to position himself. But I actually kind of find this a little insulting because Gavin Newsom is no Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk, if you disagreed with him, it doesn't matter. He was very firm in his convictions. He didn't change his convictions to try to win or curry political favor, right? Charlie was Charlie, and he said what he believed, and he believed what he said, and that was it. And not to say he never evolved on a position. I'm sure he did. But Gavin doesn't evolve because he comes to a different conclusion. He evolves because he thinks it's going to help his case. And so I find that the most insulting part about this comparison here.
It is insulting. Tomi, last night I sang, it was very last minute, it was thrown together, but I sang for a Charlie Kirk vigil in Fort Lauderdale. And I sang How Great Thou Art, which is a song that's just very personal to me, and I thought it was appropriate given Charlie's faith. There is a common bond, even as I looked at that audience and as the many Turning Point events that I've been to, especially among young men, but let's just say young people in general, there's a common bond that Charlie helped inspire, and that was purpose and principles and values. It's all constitutional. It's God-given rights that we have. Newsom can't inspire that because the house that he's built, the leftist house he's built, is built on quicksand. So no morals, loose values, laws don't matter, women can be men, resist arrest. But Charlie inspired young men and young people to learn, to come to be educated. You do that by educating a person. And I think he's so different from Gavin. And so Gavin, as I said earlier, is kind of like left with guys like Tyler Robinson, disaffected young men who have no moral compass. They don't know right from wrong. It's not love or spat. This is ideological hatred. And notice that the latest spate of is not exactly a turning point attendee. Let's be honest about that. But I don't think Newsom could ever be Charlie, Tom, because number one, he's too old. He started too late in life. But two, he's just a poser. He doesn't stand for the things that young men want or that they need. Charlie gave them purpose. Gavin doesn't. Gavin will be, think about the California wildfires, women and men and women's sports, things like that. He does things. So when he talks about touching grass, I don't know, I've never really heard that term before, saying that young men need to go touch grass. The only grass I see him touching is either artificial turf or weed, because that's just kind of how he is. He goes whichever the way wind blows. And I think he comes across as inauthentic, as disingenuous, as a poser. He talks the talk, but he won't walk the walk. And that's why he'll never be Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, and I hope to goodness he never becomes our president. I don't think he will, because I think people can see through the BS. But, he's an opportunist, and I don't think he's rooted in anything. And there are folks on the left that I think are, deeply rooted in their beliefs, and I can respect them for that, even though I disagree with it. And I would count like the Bernie Sanders in there. Like, I completely disagree with him, but he's rooted in that. That has been his position since the 70s, and he has maintained it. And I think it's loony, but I'm like, okay, well, at least you are advancing something that you truly believe in. Gavin doesn't have that. Gavin's like, well, what can I just do for attention? Like, not even for political points. It's attention. It's like he'll do anything for attention. And that's why he'll not ever be our president, and he will not ever be somebody as inspirational as Charlie Kirk, because he doesn't have a foundation. Beau, I appreciate you so much, and thank you for all of your wonderful and kind words. I hope to talk to you again very soon, and it's going to be up to all of us in this space to just continue forward, because we have to fill a very large gap and a very large void in some very large shoes. But I think with all of us together, we can make a dent in it. So I appreciate you being part of it.
My pleasure, Tommy. It's time to think and it's time to act. I completely agree with you, in a spirit of love.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Beau. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks, Tommy.